episode of Rashad Show, live on Joshua Radio. Rashad, we just continue on from music take from you. Rashad Show presents every single Saturday afternoon from 2 o'clock p.m. Sports Top Team. Each stand time that the whole of Odyssey every Sunday. Special edition of the Rashad Show, 8 o'clock p.m. The 10 o'clock p.m. Each stand time. Joshua Graves will be back once again for another episode on a Sunday, third consecutive Sunday me doing the Rashad Show. It's been a great time. Had a blast. And I got another guest. I had a guest last week, John Hanna, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Now I got another guest who's played in the AFC most of his career. He played with the Jets, played with the Denver Broncos, won a couple Super Bowls, played with the Kansas City Chiefs. So got another player that used to play in the AFC in his playing time. His name is Cadrez. He's a former linebacker, played 11 seasons. Most of his tenure was with the Broncos, and he had a lot of success. And he joins me live via Zoom. Welcome to the Rashad Mitchell Show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rashad. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the show, Mr. Cadrez. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, man. First question, man. Where you originally from? Or where were you originally born?
I was born and raised in El Centro, California, small ag town, little farming town south near Mexico and on the border of Mexico and the Arizona border in California.
Okay. Outside of football, was there any other sports that you specialized in playing? Or then was football your main sport?
You know, football was my main thing. I did other sports just to kind of enhance my football game. So I played baseball just to hang out with my buddies. I wrestled just to get stronger. I was on the swim team just to kind of I wanted to kind of get longer muscles and stretched out more. And so they were like, yeah, go join swim team. And I raced bikes. I played basketball. I did it all, but mainly football.
Okay. Obviously you went to Houston. Was there other schools that reached out to you for a scholarship? What made Houston the school to go to outside of the other schools that probably was reaching out to you? But what made Houston the right choice to attend college and play college football?
Well, at that time, '89, I went to junior college, and so I finished 2 years of junior college, and I had quite a few schools offer me a scholarship, but Houston had just won the Heisman with Andre Ware, and they were number 9 in the nation, and I just really was excited to get over there. Jack Pardee was the coach, and they were just doing some crazy stuff over there, winning games, really playing some great defense. So I went to Houston. Unfortunately, when I signed, Jack Pardee went to the Oilers. Andre Ware decides he's going pro his junior year. Of course, he just won the Heisman. Why wouldn't he? And then, so we did okay my junior year. I think we finished number 8 in the nation and went 10-1. So we did all right.
What was your first year at Houston?
90 and 91.
Okay. Again, I want to talk about, obviously, fortunately, you lost that game, but it was against Miami on Thursday night. It was David Klingler. He got a lot of hype. I think he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated where that season started. Talk about that game, because that was a national game on ESPN. Miami, obviously not as good as they used to be. They're just bad right now, but back then they were, the best of the best. But talk about that game.
That was my senior year when we were ranked number 2 and we played against Miami. I think they were ranked number 4, and they ended up winning the national championship. But Miami in the 90s, 80s, and 90s was like beyond any team. I mean, they were like the Alabama of college football. They were tremendous. They had a home win streak of I don't even know how many games. It was something that'll probably never be broken. They had numerous first-round picks. Just a hard fought team that was just super tough, man. Miami was the team in the 80s and 90s. So we went up there and we thought we had a good enough team to play with them, and unfortunately we didn't. We had some junior college All-American linemen that we brought in, and they didn't really pan out too well. And we had to rely on some younger kids at the offensive line position, and Klinger couldn't throw. I think we ended up going 4-7 that year.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the '92 draft. You became the 154th pick Went to the Jets, round 6. Was you surprised that you slid to that round?
Well,
Round
you
6.
know what? For some reason, I didn't go to the combine, and I was kind of looked at. I played defensive end, and I was kind of looked at as a small defensive end. I couldn't go pro at defensive end, and then word started getting out that no, he's more of a linebacker. So I did private workouts, and I worked out for about 14 teams. And I started to get the word. Marv Levy flew me up there, and I thought I was going to Buffalo. He said, "Listen, we're taking you in the 6th round." I was like, great. Buffalo had just gone to 2 Super Bowls, and then they eventually went to 2 more, and that was it. So I woke up the second day of the draft thinking, I'm going to Buffalo in the 6th, and then Miami called me, and Miami said, hey, we're taking you in the next like 5 or 6 picks, and I'm like, okay, great. Even that's Dan Marino, Sunshine. I was like, great, I'm going to Miami, and then phone rings and I thought it was Miami getting me, and Jets called and they said, hey, we just drafted you. So I had no idea the Jets were drafting me. I had no idea the Jets wanted me. I didn't even know. I think I knew 1 or 2 players that played for the Jets. So a new experience for me.
Okay, so talk about Bruce Coslet. What kind of coach was he when you got drafted in '92?
Well, fortunately, in my career, I had 4. If you count Bruce Coslet, I had 4 head coaches, and 3 of them will probably go to the Hall of Fame. Mike Shanahan, Dick Vermeil is already in there, and Pete Carroll. And so it's tough for Bruce to compare to those 3 guys. And being a rookie, I didn't have much conversation with the head coach at times. I really I don't know exactly how good of a coach he was. I was mainly special teams, and it was kind of one of those. It was a super tough season for us. I think we might have won 2 or 3 games, um, and you know, it is what it is. I mean, I wish Bruce the best, but I don't know if he was in that caliber with the other coaches I've been around.
Playing in New York, New Jersey area, was it a tough adjustment going from California? Talk about that experience playing, on the East Coast.
You know the. I mean, I loved it. I loved the food. I loved the excitement of the city. The only problem I couldn't find any avocados out there for my sandwiches, but that was about the only thing, man. The weather was rough on me, but when you're in your 20s, man, you're just excited to do anything and leave the nest and start your life. So I was excited. I embraced it, and I loved New York.
Okay, so '93 rolls around. You go, you get like Leonard Marshall and Ronnie Lott and Boomer Esiason. Talk about playing with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I knew maybe 1 guy or 2 guys, Al Toon and Freeman McNeil's only 2 people I ever heard of on the Jets. And then all of a sudden, my second year there, we start bringing in all these, big name guys, Art Monk and all that stuff, and Ronnie Lott. So it was a learning experience because, Ronnie is just a tremendous competitor, and he really taught younger guys how to be a pro and how to take the week of work, the week of preparation seriously, and prepare yourself to win on Sunday. He was a guy that believed that you won the game on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, and then what you put in the bank was what you went out and spent on Sunday. So it was a great learning experience, and I'm just extremely proud to be to play with some of those guys.
One game I want to talk about from that season was against Philadelphia. That's when Eric Allen, I think he had like 3 interceptions, ran one back for a touchdown. Uh, Johnny Mitchell was on that team. I think he played pretty good in that game. Do you remember that game? I wanted because I wanted to
Yeah,
talk about the games. Yeah, talk
I
about that
remember.
game.
Yeah, I remember a really long interception that Allen had. Like it was crazy. Like back and like he went to both sidelines of the back and forth, and he must have ran for like 150 yards on a 60-yard interception return. That's pretty much all I remember of that game. I know it was an exciting game, but yeah, he had a heck of a game.
Yeah, that could have made to the playoffs that year. Also beat the Giants that year. Um, so '94 rolls around. Um, I think did VP Carroll come to coach in '94?
I 93 and 94. Yeah.
Yeah, 94.
92. Yeah. 92 was Bruce, and then Pete was 93 and 94.
Okay. 94 rolls around. We had a chance to make it to the playoffs. Again, I want to talk about is against the Dolphins. That's when the fake spike game.
Yeah.
Dan Marino. Talk about that game because you had like an 18-point lead and you lost the lead. Talk about what went wrong in that game because obviously Dan Marino was dangerous at what he does, and plus he came back from the injury that he suffered in '93. Thinking towards Achilles. Talk about that game.
Right. Well, you never really know it's in a historical game like that until it's until after it's played. But at the time, it was just another rivalry. Miami's always been a big rival for us, and we always played Miami pretty tough. We sat on a lead, and when you got a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame coach, I mean things like that happen. I think that the early '90s was the beginning of modern day football as far as the passing game. I think that's when teams started to realize that the way to move the ball at the most efficient way is through the air because you can get bigger chunks, you can get bigger plays, you can get so I really think that that's when the passing game. Obviously, Houston had that run and shoot. Buffalo had the K gun, so you know in the AFC especially, it was really starting to we're starting to air it out. We didn't really have the defenses that the NFC had, but that game really it wasn't the make or break to get to the playoffs. We actually missed a 30-yard field goal. We actually missed a 30-yard field goal in Buffalo to put it that we would have won. We would have went into the playoffs, and then we lost to Houston our last game, and they beat us. They beat us pretty good that year, and we could have went to the playoffs with that game too. So there was like 3 games that we could have won, and we didn't close it.
Yeah, because you was 8-8 in 1993, and then you went to 6-10. Yeah, y'all just picked the wrong time to like collapse because y'all went 6-10. Y'all lost the next 6 of the last 7 games. They ended up Pete Carroll getting fired. And then following the week 12 win at Minnesota, Jets would lose 33 of the next 37 games. So that didn't even qualify for the playoffs that year, which could have been the case. Also, want to get off the subject, Leon Hess. Talk about him. What kind of owner was Leon Hess to play for the Jets?
I would see him once a year. He would come in at training camp. He would talk about, how I have no idea about the man really. He came in for about 10, 15 minutes every training camp, and talked about how this coach is going to be here for the rest of his life, and then the coach would be fired. Like so. I don't really know much about Hess other than just the 10-minute little speeches he would give during training camp.
Okay, so 95 rolls around. Here comes Rich Kotite. Talk about what kind of coach he was. Coming from the Eagles, talking about that. Unfortunately, you went 3-13. That would be your last, year with them, but with the Jets. But just talk about, being around Rich Kotite, what kind of coach he was, guy he was, being in that locker room with him.
Well, I'll be honest, Rashad. At that time, I had it, with the organization, and I had expressed that I wanted out. Actually, in '94, I wanted out. I asked for a trade. I asked to release me, and they wouldn't. And then here comes Kotite. I don't really have anything much to say about Kotite. I never really knew the guy. I was there at training camp. I asked to be released again. They said that they were going to keep me until the third game to see if these other younger rookies would pan out. And so I waited my third week, and then they released me, and I was gone and never looked back in '95. And that was when Kotite, his first year. So I really don't know Kotite too well. Spent training camp, and that was about it.
Okay, so 95 rolls around. You signed the Denver Broncos. Were there other teams other than Denver that you wanted to go to, or just Denver was like your main fit? What made them the best fit? But also talk about what other teams that you wanted to go to, leaving the Jets.
Well, it was my fourth year, and I was really starting to understand the game and understand the politics and the whole just the whole living arrangements and everything about the game. So when I got released by the Jets, my first trip that next day, I went to Cincinnati, and they offered me a 2-year deal, and I just thought that I'm not going from the frying pan to the crock pot. I just the organization. I felt that the Jets organization was just lacking. It wasn't even an NFL team. We were doing things like two guys in a bed the hotel the night before, and just there was no food like at the facility. It was rough. It was like you're in high school, and I didn't want any part of that. I wanted a good owner, a good traditional team that I wanted to feel like I was in the NFL, and so I said no to Cincinnati. I set out a week. I went to Washington. Um, During my workout in Washington, my agent calls. He says, "Hey, listen, Houston wants to sign you to a 1-year deal." I said, "Great, I'll go back to Houston. Kind of a home away from home. Jack Pardee there. Sounds good." And then I told Washington, "Hey, I'm going to Houston." Uh, got in the shower, got out of the shower, was driving to the airport. My agent calls again and says, "Denver wants you." And I said, "Go to Denver. I want to go to Denver. It's AFC West. I'm from California. I always grew up watching AFC West, Kansas City, Denver, and San Diego, and Raiders and all that. So it was a no-brainer. Got to Denver on a Tuesday. No one was in the locker room. Steve Atwater was the only one in there. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, how you doing? Let's go win some Super Bowls." And that was the first thing he said. And I was just like, wow, I'm in a whole different mindset and atmosphere, and it just everything just kind of clicked. And I was just on the Jets, it was a lot of finger pointing, and I should be making more money, and this guy, what's he doing, and it just wasn't a team. That I just it's been 30 years. It's you know I'm not to badmouth the organization. I'm sure it's a great organization now, and they do some great things, and I root for them. But at that time, it was just night and day from the Bronco organization and the Jets. So I really felt like now I've made it, and everything was, I stayed there for 6 years, and really kind of that was my career, and had some success in Super Bowls, and so that was my free agent experience.
Okay, Pat Bowlen, unfortunately passed away a few years back, 2019. When you first talk about your first interaction with Pat Bowlen, the type of guy he was to you, and kind of owner he was, the impact they had on the NFL. Talk about Pat Bowlen.
Great guy, great man, great owner, always around. Saw him at least once a week. He traveled with us. Uh, every week on a Friday, he would come in. He'd be at practice. He'd walk around. He'd say hi to everyone. How's the family? Just a great guy. His kids are ball boys. Still to this day, I'll call him up and say, "Hey, what are you doing, man?" Just "Hey, Glenn." It was a family. Definitely a family, a team there, and just can't say enough about Bowens.
Okay, Mike Shanahan, that was his first year. Talk about your first interaction with Mike Shanahan.
Um, Mike, he's the mastermind. He's the guy in the lab that's making the concoctions that you're just like every week. It was like we would see something new on offense. He was just a great offensive mind scheme guy. He's a no nonsense guy. But yet, he let us have fun. He let us be ourselves. He let us get away with a lot of things as long as we were producing. And just a great coach, man. He created a great atmosphere. A lot of guys that kind of weren't on the same page. He got rid of you quick. There was no nonsense. It was if there's a guy kind of lacking or slacking and not really doing what he's supposed to be doing, he got rid of you, and it didn't matter. So it was we respected that. So we knew that he had our back, and he was just a great coach.
Terrell Davis, that was his first year in '95. Talk about your first interaction with him, like then with him in practice and stuff like that. Obviously, he had the strikes. I think the game that turned to like made people turn their heads. Like it was the preseason game against the 49ers where he laid somebody out. In the preseason game, I think it was in Tokyo or something like that. Because back then, NFL teams would go and travel, overseas and play these preseason exhibitions. They don't do that no more. But let's talk about that Terrell Davis at that time.
Well, I had heard of Terrell because he was starting to make a little noise the first few weeks, and yeah, you're right. That game in Tokyo in the preseason, it was on the kickoff team, and so he got the starting job, and you started to, kind of, you started to see him on the highlights, on the Sunday highlights with Berman, where they're showing Denver, and they're like, who's this guy rushing for 130? Where's this guy from? So when I got there, I knew that he was an up and coming rookie. And he was just a rookie, just a quiet guy from San Diego. So we kind of clicked with that, and you know, just really, man, I'm on a text chain with about 30 Broncos, like, and Terrell's one of them. Like we're super close. We talk all the time. We're always kind of hanging out together, doing stuff, and I mean, it's just I'm blessed to have a team like that because they really truly are my brothers, and it's been 30 years, and we still communicate.
Okay, that season you go 8-8. What went wrong? Because you finished fourth in the AFC. You had obviously John Elway. Yeah, talk about him. You first like dealing with him in practice and going against him, his greatness. Talk about that in practice against John Elway in that offense with Shannon Sharp and Ed McCaffrey and Terrell Davis.
Yeah, I mean it was a great offense. I think it sharpened us as a defense, going against those guys every single day, whether it's one on ones or 9-on-7 or team. So I think they definitely sharpened us. But you kind of you watch them become great. I mean, when I got to Denver, Rod Smith was running down on kickoffs, and now he's the leading receiver in Denver history. You had Ed McCaffrey was a castaway from the Niners, and here he is out there in practice and just doing great things, and you're like, man, he's going to explode in this league. And then there was Terrell. And then of course Sharp was always, very loud and out there. He always kind of kept things fun. On the bus, he was always talking about your clothes, talking about what you're wearing, but in a fun way. I'm really excited about all his success. He's just like that. What you see is what you get with Sharp. He's he's a down to earth dude that just likes to laugh and a real good teammate. So that 8-8 year, I think it was just a bunch of guys that were just now coming together. Um, like I said, Mike had a very defined way of trimming the fat. Like if there's someone that's not working that he doesn't think is playing to his potential, he's going to get rid of you. And that next year, I think '96, he had a great draft year. A lot of those guys were really outstanding special teamers. That contributed a lot. So we were just kind of coming together, a bunch of castaways, and there was a couple Hall of Fame first rounders there, of course. But when you look at it, it's a lot of late round picks and guys that were on other teams and castaways, and that just kind of came together to make that dynasty.
Okay, so the following year things took it. You took it to the next level. You go 13-3. You win the AFC West. The first time since 1991. You earn the top seed. But unfortunately, you faced the Jacksonville Jaguars, lose 30-27. You had 9 Pro Bowlers: Elway, Davis, Sharp, Zimmerman, Alfred Williams, Michael Perry, Bill Romanowski, Steve Atwater, uh, Tyrone Jackson. You had, 9 Pro Bowlers. But talk about getting ready against Jacksonville. I remember that very well. Was there overconfidence against them? Because obviously they were an expansion team. Tom Coughlin, we're going to have Rick says Mark Brunell. At that time, was like, another version of Steve Young. You had Cordell McKinnon, McCardle, and Jimmy Smith, Natrone Means. They were very talented, but that was a shocker at that time. That was like the biggest upset in playoff history. You lose 30-27. Talk about that game.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. As far as taking a team lightly, um, you know, that 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 phrase is kind of used loosely. Like you took a team lightly, and well, yeah, I guess if we lost, we did. But they had some players, and I mean, this is a team that was in the playoffs, and anytime you're a team in the playoff, you definitely have players, and you know how to run the plays. That you're a good team. but they weren't in our caliber. They shouldn't have been. We should have beat that team by a couple touchdowns. And it was one of those days that things just seemed to just not go our way. Like you get a guy and he had a great career, but Michael Dean Perry. Um, there's a play where he doesn't get off the field, and it was third down, and he was late getting off the field, and they gave him a first down, and like that right there with the kind of offense we had. I mean, they punt, we score, it's a whole nother ball game. Instead, they get a first down, they take about 8 minutes off the clock, and just they go down and score. So it's really a play like that could make a big difference. We had it just we had some cutback lane problems on defense where they were scrambling around, and we just weren't on our game. And they won. It was a great learning experience. It was the toughest loss I've ever had in my career, and I know I speak for all my teammates. We've all said it, that was the worst loss of our lives, um, and it happens.
Yeah, and that game also, y'all jumped out to a 12-0 lead. Shannon Sharp scored a touchdown. Y'all went for two. Y'all failed on that. Ron Hebron scored. So y'all jumped on them. Y'all was, on the roll. And they come back and, take a 23-12 lead, come back 23-20, but then they score again. Jimmy Smith just had a big game. And, Brunell just played an excellent game. 2 touchdowns, 245 yards. Natron Means had 140 yards. McCardle scored a touchdown. Smith scored a touchdown. Elway played well, 2 touchdowns. Terrell Davis did his thing, but he fell short, unfortunately. Now let's fast forward to the following year, '97. Interesting. Obviously, you went to the Super Bowl. I want to go over that, obviously. Um, but you did it in a way that where it was due the wild card route. But at the time, it was rare for certain few teams went to the wild card and won Super Bowl. 1980 Oakland Raiders. They won it as a wild card. I think you guys made at that time was the second wild card. Yeah, I see it right here. The second wild card team at that time, just in 1970 merger to win the Super Bowl along with the Oakland Raiders. So y'all did the hard way. I finished 12-4. Didn't win the division. Tried to go the hard way. So I'm gonna focus on the playoff run. Obviously, you went up against again the team that you lost to the year before. Talk about that. That's like central casting. Like all the stars are aligned. Now you got the Jaguars again at your home turf. This time you beat them bad. 42-17. Let's talk about getting ready for them. Obviously, it was revenge, correct?
Right. I mean, that was a revenge tour, and we got extremely lucky with the scheduling because we had what had happened was we came out and we won a few games. We had a winning record, and then we hit a little lull. I think it was like maybe late November. We went up against Pittsburgh, and they just really put a beating on us. Really put a beating on it, and it was one of those games where they were more physical than us. And any football player will tell you those are the ones that really get you is when a team goes out there and really kicks your butt physically. And so we had that loss. We came back. We had another, I think, Sunday night or Monday night game against Niners, and they kicked our butt. So we were kind of reeling, kind of tail spinning a little bit, thinking, kind of doubting ourselves. And thank goodness we fight. We make it to the playoffs. We're a wild card. We weren't supposed to do anything, but it was like, hey, you know what? Guess what? We're here. We're still that 13-3 team that we were last year. Now instead of home field, we're in the wild card, and guess who we get to play? Jacksonville. So we really took it out on Jacksonville. Um, yeah, we stepped on their neck. It wasn't even close from the first play to the last play, and thank God it was that team that we played. We then moved forward to Kansas City, who they're our huge rivalry. We got lucky again, in my personal opinion. Um, Gannon was their starting quarterback, and they benched Gannon and they put in Gerback. So we thought, hey, the one thing Gannon does is run around, and that hurts us more than anything. And now they got Gerback, and so hey, this is great. Now we have an aiming point. So we go into Kansas City, we beat them, which we owed them as well because they were our big rivals. And then lo and behold, we go to the AFC Championship against who? The Pittsburgh Steelers, who had embarrassed us a few weeks before. So we were just completely set every game was just perfect. We owed each team our best shot, and so we gave it to them.
Yeah, and the thing about that, he beat the Chiefs 14-10, very close game. The championship game, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the game where Sharp made a big catch on third down, I think it was. That was he was that kept the chains moving. Because obviously you had to go on the road going to Pittsburgh at that time, Three-River Stadium, before it became Heinz Field. They moved to the stadium, a hostile environment, and getting that win. So now you go to Super Bowl 32. Now, the thing about that Super Bowl, I know Trey for wrong during that time, it was at that time the NFC was dominant. They had won 13 consecutive Super Bowls from 1984 to 1996, and you're the huge underdog. You're going against the Packers. They won Super Bowl three this year. They beat New England 35-24. Desmond Howard was the MVP. I think Brett Favre at that time, I think the research, had won 3 MVPs in a row. So
Right.
he's red hot. And Elway, been there before, won, went to Super Bowls, but kept falling short. But talk about going into that game against the obviously went a long way to get to it. Beat Jacksonville, beat Kansas City, beat the Steelers. But just talk about getting ready for the Green Bay Packers, a team that was destined to repeat. They maybe some dynasty talk because they've been really, really good for a few years under Mike Holmgren. Just talk about getting ready for the Packers in Super Bowl 32.
Well, I think the Packers might have taken us lightly. Of course, they were defending Super Bowl champions. They had a bunch of Pro Bowlers. They had a really good team. NFC was dominant. That was another team that when we were 13-3 the year before, that was one of the losses that we had. So we felt that we had a really good shot of beating them up there in Wisconsin, and we blew it. And so they were just another team on our list that we really owed them something to. So the whole 2 weeks at the Super Bowl, it was a lot of talk. They were. I mean, we had guys like in a elevator and overhearing some of the players like, hey man, we're gonna kill this. It was one of those games where it was like they let it be known like this is our Super Bowl. We're gonna do this and that. And we loved it because I'll tell you what, man, we believed in every aspect of our game. We loved our running game, obviously. Who didn't? Our passing game, our tight ends, our wide receivers, our defense. If you look at our defense that those Super Bowl years, I mean, we were in the top 10 on a lot of things. We were gap control defense, bend don't break, and we made a lot of big plays when we needed to. And it was when you look at it now, you go, well, heck, Denver had as many Hall of Famers and Pro Bowlers as Green Bay, but we just weren't out yet. We weren't out to the world yet. It was just it was a hot record in the city, but it wasn't worldwide yet. And so I think that Super Bowl let everyone know that the Broncos are a really good team.
Yeah, don't go into research. Brett Favre won 3 MVPs in a row, 95, 96, 97. So he's the best quarterback by far. There wasn't, you had Steve Young, you had Troy Aikman, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, Elway. He's close to the end of his career, but Favre was at the top of his game. And the thing about that game, man, they got off to a great start, man. He threw a touchdown to Tony Freeman. They probably was thinking, oh, this is a wrap. He gonna win this in a blowout. But you guys came back, and Terrell Davis started running the football extremely well, and started get it done for us the running game, the ground game, and that really changed the narrative of that game. And it was very close. They was able to come back a little bit, get back to the game, obviously. But the thing is that was huge to respond back because I think I responded back with a touchdown on that the following drive, I believe, at that time, and you win 31-24, and that was a huge win for not just for the Denver Broncos but for the AFC because it changed the balance of power. I mean, from 1997 to 2021, 15 Super Bowls was won from the AFC the next 24 years. So they had won 13 straight Super Bowls from 84 to 96. Obviously, had great coaches, great teams, dynasties like the Cowboys and the 49ers. But just talk about that situation because that yes, it was big for John Elway. It was big for him. Pat Bowlen saying this one's for John. That was a great quote by him. But Terrell Davis had a big game. Obviously 150 yards, had a migraine he still was able to do his thing. Packers was favored by 11 points. Rightly so. At that time, the NFC was the dominant conference. But let's talk about winning your first Super Bowl, man, and being part of the turnaround for the AFC to be dominant to this day, because they still the dominant conference, even though last 2 years of this decade, Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl in 2020 and 2021. The Rams won last year. Obviously, they ain't going nowhere this year. They lost again today to the Saints, so they ain't gonna be no repeat champion. Let's talk about that moment, man, being part of the turnaround, not just for the Denver Broncos winning the Super Bowl, for the AFC as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, those stats are when you really get behind those stats with the dominance that the NFC had, you got to look at the way the game was played back then. I mean, um, there wasn't the free agency that there is now. So these guys these franchises they got you get a good quarterback, you get a good defense, and they're able to just plug and play, and keep that thing going. Where the AFC, we just at that time we were very we had some good offensive players, but defensively we didn't have the defensive dominance and just the toughness that the NFC had. So yeah, it was nice to be that team that broke the glass and broke the ceiling and opened it up. But nowadays AFC NFC, one day a player's the AFC, next day he's NFC. I mean, everyone's moving around all the time now.